Okay, welcome to this week's edition of 26 Minutes With. We took 10 days off between shows, time for a little summer break with the Canada Day and the July 4th long weekend. We thought we'd kind of sneak in a little us time in there. So this is the show that honors those who are leading, making an impact, and creating positive change on the planet and, of course, locally. I'm your host, David Cohen, and I'm really pleased to have this week's guest with us. His name is Ted Phaeton. He is a husband, a son, a dog dad. What kind of dog?
He's a boxer pit bull mix.
Oh, boy. Okay. Run, Forrest, run. He's also an Emmy Award-winning morning meteorologist at Queen City News in Charlotte, North Carolina, meaning he wakes up very early. As the founder of The Modern Man, a men's networking and empowerment group, Ted is dedicated to helping men become the best versions of themselves, exploring what it means to be a high-value man in today's society. His show, The Modern Man Podcast, provides the tools, the resources, and inspiration needed to help men live a happy, fulfilled, and purposeful life. Hashtag Let's Grow. Ted, welcome. Thank you for this.
David, thank you for the fantastic introduction and for having me on it. And to the audience, I appreciate the time.
Let's dive in, man.
Yeah.
Why this inner look into today's man, or into what today's man is going through? What is it about that speaks to you? And what is it about this work that speaks to you?
Well, I think our men are crying for help. Just most of us can't hear it. And I think I heard it loudly in, I want to say as early as 2014, 2015. Mainly through my own journey. I've been blessed and lucky to have my father guide me through much of my life. And when I moved away from home for the career, I found that I gravitated towards older men and into their wisdom. And I used to always joke, hey, save me some money and save me jail time, right? Help me get there. But as I started talking to other guys and educating myself, my dad was a man of reading, a man of wisdom. I read some of the books he's given me, and I read The Mask of Masculinity by Lewis Howes. I read No More Mr. Nice Guy by Donald Glover. And I found that men are disproportionately being impacted by mental health. Suicide rate amongst men is about 70% in 2020. Men commit suicide 3.5 times more than their female counterparts. And I realized also that men were also isolated in their battle for mental health. So that just rang out loudly to me in terms of we are out here looking for camaraderie. We are looking for brotherhood. And we're looking for someone to run and grow and hunt with, right? But I've also looked around and I said, why isn't mainstream media talking about this? Why aren't we addressing this? And if anything, I found that a lot of what I thought were influences from society were kind of dulling masculinity and dulling what it is men need so much. So that kind of led me down the path of trying to identify my own journey, what I needed, what friends needed, and start that discussion. And it's led me to what's become a passion of mine and something that pulls very, very strongly on my heartstrings. And we've been able to connect men in pursuit of their potential, set a goal, set a purpose in life, and go after it.
Yeah, and these aren't easy times. I mean, we're looking at the socioeconomic challenges. We're looking at challenges to what is a man in this day and age, given what's going on with this sort of woke movement. And I'm not putting it down, I'm just commenting on it. So it is what it is. But it's hard to be a man, and it's also our roles are being really rocked, especially economically. We're hearing about economics in Canada and the US and around the world. We're seeing riots right now in France, and anger among young men, mostly among young Middle Eastern men, are lashing
Yeah.
out because, you know, one of their own at 17 got, you know, shot by a police officer. You know, what are the issues concerning men here and now on July, you know, 6, 2023? What are you seeing, you know, really keeping us up at night?
Vices, comfort, pornography, alcohol. There's so much provided to man to dull reality that we don't accept it anymore. And when the gap between what we think our reality should be and where we are hits, we reach for the bottle, we reach for the pipe, we go to a website, and we pacify that until unfortunately we get to a point where we lash out. We haven't been taught how to navigate our aggression. We haven't been taught how to navigate our frustration and navigate our emotions. So we tend to ignore them and bottle them up. Well, what happens to a bottle that you shake up enough? It'll explode, right? Or I like to say all the time, and you know, when I'm saying, all right, goodbye to a friend, I'm like, all right, hold it down, hold it down. I had one friend that's like, nah, I'm gonna let it up, right? Because what do you do if you hold a beach ball underwater? The deeper you hold it and the longer you hold it, the faster and higher that thing's gonna pop up.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what we're seeing in our men is this imbalance of pacifying reality, ignoring responsibility, and landing in a life that, quite frankly, we never asked for or really wanted. Because, referencing No More Mr. Nice Guy, we did what we were told, right? Hey, I did what I was supposed to do. I went to school. I was nice to all the girls. I stayed in my lane. I got good grades. And now I got a job. I got a wife, happy life. I go to work. I come home. I'm tired. I'm exhausted, underappreciated. I'm grabbing this bottle. This is not what I expected or what I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. We numb out. We numb the pain.
Yeah.
So what are you advising men to do as far as facing that pain and the suffering?
Ironically, ironically, we say woke, right? I mean, I say men, wake up. You know, I'm thinking of a different woke movement. I'm
Yeah,
thinking of pick up the pieces of your life, take responsibility for your surroundings, because a lot of us, you know, some of the words we say when I talk to men, integrity, responsibility, leadership, right, honor, that's all great, but if you can't navigate your own life, you have no business navigating somebody else's. So I would say, men, wake up, look in the mirror, look in the reality of where you are. What tools do you have? It might not be what the other guy has, but you have something. Work with that and start chipping away. And this is not going to be an easy journey. It's not going to be an easy road. It did not take you 2 seconds to get to where you are. So this microwave society, pop up, get what you want in 2 seconds, is not going to change. So when you change your identity, you have to understand that there's a gap between where you want to be and what you're going to be doing and where you are. So I would say wake up, take responsibility. And I'm not a big you know, all or nothing kind of guy. I know there's a lot of people in my space, in the men's mental health space, who are all or nothing. They'll promote sobriety and abstinence and all that. Now there's value to that. And for someone who has an addictive personality, I
Mm-hmm.
would recommend, listen, if you can't tolerate responsibly, leave it out completely. But if you can have a handle of your vices, so I'm not going to say quit alcohol altogether, but like, you know, what are we drinking for, man? Celebrating. What are you celebrating? Right? You're still in debt. What are you celebrating? Have something to celebrate. I'll celebrate with you. I'll cheers with you. I'll cheers a milestone, a checkpoint, an occasion, but let's not drink just for the sake of it Friday, because listen, we haven't accomplished anything. Friday comes every week. What's so special?
Yeah.
So I would say take a look at your life, audit where you are, audit where in your life you're maybe coming up short, put a number value to it, right? I'd put
Mm-hmm.
columns down: finances, relationships, job, career, business. Put a number value into how you're doing, scale of 1 to 10 in each. And I would strive to be at least a 7 or an 8 in all of them.
Yeah. It's like the wheel of life, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you want that balance. You know, your life is we're holistic. We're not just work. We're not just our marriage. We're not just a dad or a dog owner,
Yeah.
or chief dog walker in your household, I bet. But we're holistic. We've got family, we've got feelings, we've got community. So you want to look at the whole picture and then grade yourself. You know,
Hmm.
how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
And work on the whole picture and to achieve that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Work on that picture. And I would also say, who are you surrounding yourself with? Right? When you identify where you want to go in life, who's heading in that direction? Because I'll be blunt and honest, some people are still hanging around with the people who are keeping them down, crabs in a bucket. You
Mm.
start getting some progress, and they're going to be like, hey, man, no, come on, come to the bar. It's Friday. It was Friday last week. You saw me last week. Right? I promise you, you take a month off of going out drinking with your friends, you work on yourself a month later, they're still doing the same thing. You
Yeah,
didn't miss anything.
it's a waste of money, really.
A waste of
I
money,
have
a waste of time.
someone I know that likes when we do go to a sporting event as a family. She likes to have a few beers at the ball game, for example, right? The Blue Jay game, and it's not just like a few; it's like 5 or 6.
Mhm.
And beer here in Canada at a game is about $12. So you just spent $72 on nothing. It's not going to bring you anything. It's not going to fulfill you. It's not going to add value to your life. It's not going to make you better or richer or faster or stronger or whatever your goals are. You're just going to, pardon the language, piss it out, you know?
Yeah.
So you really want to look at what you're doing and look, like I look at things now as an investment, even who I'm hanging around with or where I'm spending my time. Is this bringing me a return on investment?
Absolutely. Because I would argue too the alcohol aspect, and I indulge on the weekends here and there when I'm with my wife. I'll have a drink and I'll sip a little whiskey, smoke a cigar. Those are the finer things in life. But I'm also at a point where, again, balance. I'm not going to overindulge. I'm not going to have 10 whiskeys in a night or anything and
Yeah.
have to stumble my way home. I'm going to be coherent and good to go. 4th of July just passed. I was at the pool, had a few seltzers. I was feeling good. I enjoyed myself, but I was still up the next morning at 2:20 a.m. to get to work because I have responsibilities. So we have to understand how we show up day in and day out, how we deal with these vices or sometimes these indulgences in life, right?
Yeah.
80/20 lifestyle. I'm here for one time. As far as I know, I'm not going to be stringent on everything I do, but I'm going to pick when I indulge. I'm going to pick when I enjoy. And then I'm also going to pick when I'm regimented and when I have to stick to the mission. And that's the other thing is men have a mission. Is this for your mission or not for your mission? Is this working towards it or against it? I'm conscious when I'm taking a sip of alcohol, when I'm drinking, that's taking me away from my mission. I know that wholeheartedly and I accept that. So if I accept that, I understand what I'm putting in my body, how it's gonna affect me. Because guess what? I can indulge a little bit too much in drinking. Not only does that cost money, not only am I going to be incoherent overnight, my recovery, my sleep's not going to be good. My workout that I did earlier is going to be useless. The next day, I'm probably going to be lethargic. My business is going to suffer from it. I'm going to pay a lot more than what I just paid in those drinks the night
Yeah,
before.
it does nothing for you, you know. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
play, you're a meteorologist, and I'm going to let you know that we could be hearing some thunderstorms because, according to my window,
Yeah.
there's a good chance of thunderstorms coming in, and it just got super dark. So,
Yep.
how's that? Am I doing okay? I don't even have a green screen to show you.
You're doing well. You're
All
doing
right.
well. I'm out of a job.
Yeah, there you are. And oh, I could do traffic as well, by the way.
Oh yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
So
Tag team.
yes. So I did radio. So
Hmm.
this is how we did our traffic report. So you ready?
Let's
Well,
get it.
we're up in the helicopter, and it's looking pretty heavy on the major highways right now. So
Yeah.
it
I
worked.
love the
It
sound
worked.
effects. I love
It,
the sound effect.
yeah, it really did work. So Ted, from those you've interviewed, um, what what are some of the strategies and solutions um that maybe had you rethink your thinking, like,
Yeah.
because you cover topics like, parenting and business and work and marriage. And so what interviews have really come, you know impacted you in a way, it's like, holy, I'm going to shift my thinking right now.
I had one guest, Dr. DeMartini, Dr.
Oh
John
yeah,
DeMartini,
sure.
uh, very popular, very well spoken, well researched man, and he mentioned our connection to our values and how we can identify our values by looking at our space, what we spend time on, what we spend money on, and a whole bunch of different factors. And it got me understanding and thinking where he really poured in. He said, you don't procrastinate on things that are aligned with your values. And for a lot of men listening, and for myself included, when procrastination would creep up in my life, or we'd make mountains out of molehills, right? Let's say you wake up, you have 5 emails to get back to, 5 correspondences, which shouldn't take you more than 20 minutes, but you kick that can down the line. Oh, let me do this, let me do that. You do everything but the emails until you have no choice but to do that. You're procrastinating. Why? Because it's not connected to your values, or you haven't connected your values to the action of what you're doing. So his interview was one that really kind of opened up my eyes to making sure I align my days and how I act with my values. Before we sat down, David, I told you how, I just went on a walk with my wife. As a matter of fact, I know I signed, we were signing in 2 o'clock. I signed in at 2:01. I was 1 minute late because I was with my wife. And even my wife was like, oh my gosh, it's two. But my values is family time. And I'm lucky enough to work a job where, I mean, I was always into science. I was always into weather. I wake up, I check the weather anyway. So now my job is just wake up before everybody else is, get a detailed look at what the weather's going to be, and tell them what it's going to be. After I do that, I come home. Fitness is another value of mine. I work out. After that, I spend time with my wife and the dog. We go for a walk. We have a good conversation. We talk about life. We talked about, oh, why are people going to, Facebook threads or meta threads instead of Twitter, and Elon Musk and freedom of speech and society. Like, this is my wife and I talking, and then I sit down and I have a great conversation with you. Everything I do is assigned with my values, and there's no procrastination in my day. I love every minute of my day because I've assigned what I'm working towards, what my mission is, and my actions are following suit. So I enjoy it. I think a lot of men have not connected their values to their actions. They're working a job that they can care less about. They're a number, they could be replaced in 5 days. You give it 2 weeks notice, it won't even take them 2 weeks to fill the position. And because of that, we walk around lacking something. We walk around without that fire that we have within us, and that us men have within us, that leadership, that innate ability to hunt, chase, go after. A lot of times that masculinity within us that has been shoved down because we've been conditioned to tone it down, sit still in school, you know, Tommy, stop playing with that, go to the back of the class. We've been conditioned to turn it off so long that we grow up in the adult world and we don't know how to act. So that interview really stuck out with me. And also, um, a number of interviews talking about habits. The chains of habits are often too light to feel until they're too strong to break. And we don't understand the nuances of the habits that we have, the
Yeah.
things that we do day in and day out, and how that over time dictates the trajectory of our lives.
Yes, for sure. Um, you talked about our childhood. There's been a real, move in the personal growth movement to look at our inner child and heal our inner child, and the traumas we might have gone through. For some, the traumas are little t traumas, like, I lost my job, or whatever, like, I broke my arm, or they're big T traumas, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, bullying, sexual, whatever, like they're big T traumas. So are you doing that kind of work with the men that you're seeing? Because I think we need to really heal or get a handle on those traumas
Mm-hmm.
that we experienced as kids, so that they don't wreak havoc on our adulthood, and that we don't numb out by grabbing the bottle or going on, Pornhub or whatever the site is, yeah. Are you
So
doing
I
that
think
work too?
we talk about our traumas, and we address them in our mastermind. We address them in our interviews, and we talk about, I've had guests that, they've been suicidal. They talk about they vividly talk about, and hope this doesn't trigger anybody, and I'm sure you could share the suicide
Mhm.
hotline, but they vividly talk about, sitting down with a gun in their mouth and then deciding not to do it at the last minute, and why and what led them there. But I also am very transparent in saying, I'm not a licensed therapist, but I will look another man in the eye and say, hey, what are these recurring memories? What are these things that's bubbling up? And as as someone once told me, he's like, hey, if you know what's wrong with you, go sit on someone's couch and work it out. Because I think therapy has been a stigma for men. And
Mm.
I'm a big proponent of, like, listen, go see a therapist, bro. Now, I do think it's important for us to lead with vulnerability with each other in a safe place. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying you put your business out there for everybody to see. Don't go posting on social media, oh, I went through this. No, but for the guys who have hundreds, maybe thousands of contacts in their phone, it could feel lonely when you don't have anyone to call when you have something real going on. Like, excuse my French, but when the shit goes down, who are you going to call?
Yeah.
Right. And my vision with Modern Man, and the whole purpose of it in the first place, is I don't want those men to have no one to call, because we need someone to call. And sometimes it doesn't even solve the problem. But if I'm going through something tough and a buddy of mine says, all right, man, let's sit down, talk about it, let's have a beer, and not even say anything, I'm just here with you, that provides community. I'm not in this fight alone, and because I have a brother in arms, I can feel confident in my approach to life. Right. In my coaching, I tag my emails, your brother in arms, your brother in this fight, because we shouldn't be fighting this life alone. And that's what a lot of guys go through. Right. So when it comes to our childhood traumas, we go through life operating, whether it's hyper defensive, you know, someone might have been molested at a young age, and because of that, they might have been molested by a man, and because of that, they're hyper defensive of their sexuality,
Yeah.
and because of that, they overextend their masculinity, which some would label as toxic. I would label it as misdirected. Right? There's nothing toxic about your masculinity. You just
No.
haven't learned how to manage it. So that is where I would say, hey, bro, we could sit down, we could talk about what's going on, but I'll also be real, look you in the eye and be like, hey, man, I think you should sit on someone's couch. They could help you out. And
Yeah.
there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. There's strength in that.
I agree. There's no shame in weakness, It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's just life, because life is like this. It's not like that,
Mm-hmm. I
Or
would, if I may, really quick,
please,
because you say
please.
there's no shame in weakness, and I work out a lot, and I love pushing my body to the limit. And I
Yeah.
talked about, bench press. You put the bar on your chest, you push it up. And if you can
Sure.
manage the weight, that's great.
Yeah.
However, the most growth I get is when I lift too much, is when I lift more than I can actually handle. And I need somebody else to help lift the bar off my chest.
Right.
That's the best workout I get. And I think it's same in life. It's true in life, right? We are going to have times where somebody else has to help us pick up the bar. There's nothing wrong with that. That is our growth. That is our stretch. And that's actually where the strength is built, because sooner or later, it's going to be our turn to pick up the bar off of one of our brother's chest.
Yeah. And we're getting out of our comfort zone too, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, you're listening to 26 Minutes with David Cohen here with you. And with us is broadcaster, podcaster, dad, husband, dog walker, and a man who is making a difference. So he's the perfect guest for our show, and that's Ted Phaeton. Ted, just shifting gears a little bit, we've seen a lot of talk in the media, and I know you're in the media and in the ecosphere, about the sexes these days, whether it's sort of a lot of people are against toxic masculinity versus maybe the feminization of men, or that softer, sensitive man. And we're seeing a ton of things about the LGBTQ movement as far as men opting to switch. What is it, in your opinion, to be a man in this day and age of it's a bit confusing out there.
It is. It really is. In this day and age, to be a man, I think for me, if someone's like, "How do you know you're a man?" Well, I look down. I got the hardware. That's my first inkling for myself, right? And I can only speak of my experience. But if someone were to ask me, well, how do I know I'm a man? Not only the hardware, but also um just my desires in life and how I show up. And we have a choice. And when I say we have a choice, we have a choice in how we show up every single day.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people are hurting because they've been misled, confused through life. And we are trying to navigate what it means. It's the same question I've asked myself for years. What does it mean to be a man? But when I've shown up as my strongest self, when I've been dependable, when my wife looks me in the eye and she tells me she feels safe with me, that makes me feel like a man. When I take on responsibilities for our household, whether it be helping clean the dishes because she's at work, or whether it be me going out to get the bag so she could relax at home. That's what makes me feel like a man, being needed, right? And for me, that's what I lean into. We put so much complexity on it, right? Simplicity to me is what it comes down to. I'm not a complex person. I'm an easy, simple man. I have the hardware. I wake up, I go get it. That's how I know I'm a man. That's what I define for myself. Now, I know some people might be confused in their journey. They might be suffering from mental health more than anything. And they might need to work through that. And people are hurting because they might have felt like they've lacked acceptance. Well, as a Black man in America who's experienced racism here and there, I will say I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. I pick up the pieces. I look at my reality. I wake up, look at where I am, how I intend to show up, and I go get it. I go after it. Sure, do I stumble? Of course. That's when I look for the help of the men around me, the guidance. I've had positive male role models to follow throughout my life, and that has been helpful for me to be surefire in my trajectory and where I go. So, what does it mean to be a man nowadays? Simplicity, assurance, and for me, just the fact that in my heart, that's what I know. I haven't asked more questions. I was just keep it as simple, man. Doesn't have to be complicated.
I'm going to end it there. I have more questions. We're going to go on to the deeper dive,
Yeah,
but I really want to thank you for being a guest here on the 26 minutes version.
my pleasure.
Where do we reach you to work with you? I know you've got your podcast site. That's probably the best place to go, right?
Yeah, you can go to themodernmanpodcast.com. You'll get all the info there, but I'm also on Instagram at the Modern Man Podcast. You can find me there. And then you could search the Modern Man Podcast on YouTube for our shows and everything. But the website has all those links.
I really, this has been great. We're going to go deeper into our deeper dive next. Stay with us. A joy having Ted Phaeton on. I really love what you're doing. I think it's really important right now, because I feel the past 3+ years have been super intense times with one thing after another coming at us, and it's tough, just never mind being a man, just being a human being on the planet right now. It's some
Yeah.
days it's like, holy dear mother of God, what else can go wrong?
Listen, it's hard for everybody, and we're all just trying to figure it out. And
Yeah.
that's why there's a balance between. I mean, there's strength in facing the adversity, and there's also strength in the community to face it together. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, and I love what you're doing in terms of sharing the word. I appreciate the platform.
Oh, you're a joy to have. All right, stay with us. We're coming back next with a deeper dive. Don't go anywhere. Whoop. There we go.